This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Picture perfect. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. Yeah, that is our weather reality, folks, for the next several days. Picture perfect. The calendar says mid-October, going to feel more like the middle of summer. However, meteorologist Kevin Williams calling for easy-to-take temperatures and wall-to-wall sunshine. That trend will continue right through the middle part of next week. Kev's got your complete weekend forecast coming up. Rust Belt campaign blitz. That is our top story today at noon. Both Vice President Harris and former President Trump are in Michigan today with 18 days to go in the race for the White House. And the race in Michigan could not be closer. Here's correspondent Peter Alexander.
To give you a sense of just how crucial this key swing state of Michigan is, both candidates are going to be in the exact same county later tonight.
The Wolverine State and its 15 electoral votes could prove pivotal in the outcome of the election. This Michigander says he's still on the fence about who he'll support, but he does know this.
It's a civic duty to vote. We've got to start taking it more seriously than we have in the past.
NBC's Kristen Welker expects a lot of fisticuffs in the final 2.5 weeks of the campaign.
With the country so deeply divided, the real question is, will people turn away from what they may see as more mudslinging, or is this enough to get them energized to get out and vote?
Early voting is already underway in more than 40 states nationwide. One of the world's most wanted men is wanted no longer.
Yahya Sinwar was often referred to by the Israeli military as a dead man walking. They've been hunting for him for over a year.
Reporter Aaron McLaughlin in Tel Aviv today. The Israeli military releasing video footage of the final moments of the Hamas leader's life. Sinwar was shot dead in a firefight at a home in Gaza. The BBC's Neil News.
Filmed by a drone, it shows a badly wounded man in a ruined building, his face covered with a Palestinian scarf, hurling a piece of wood at the drone as it approaches him.
Yahya Sinwar was the mastermind of the October 7th terror attack that started the Israeli-Hamas war. Retired NATO commander Admiral James Stavridis says this guy was Hitler-esque in his hatred of Jews.
Why did Sinwar kill 1,200 Jews on October 7th? The answer is because he couldn't kill 7 million.
Many are comparing Sinwar's death to that of Osama bin Laden, who masterminded 9/11. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan.
I think his removal from the battlefield does present an opportunity to find a way forward that gets the hostages home.
Hamas is still holding 100 hostages in Gaza. President Biden called Sinwar's death a good day for Israel and the rest of the world. Prime Minister Netanyahu says it marks the beginning of the end of the Hamas war. Execution on hold in Texas. The state Supreme Court issuing a stay of execution last night, sparing the life of convicted child killer Robert Roberson. He could have become the first person ever executed for a shaken baby syndrome murder. State Representative John Busey spoke to Roberson after that 11th hour reprieve.
He knows this isn't over. He wants the truth to come to light, and the Texas House is working to do that, and we hope that the courts and others will follow suit.
Roberson was sentenced to die 2 decades ago for the death of his 2-year-old daughter. New evidence suggests his daughter died of double pneumonia, not shaken baby syndrome. Tobacco use among U.S. teenagers is at a 25-year low. Both the CDC and FDA announcing teen tobacco use and vaping is down dramatically from 2023 levels. Just 1.5% of teenagers nationwide admit to smoking cigarettes on a regular basis. Donald Trump was cracking the jokes last night at the Al Smith dinner in New York. For nearly 80 years, presidential candidates have been yucking it up at that event, which raises money for Catholic charities. Media critic Joe Concha says it was a mistake for the other White House contender not to be there.
Kamala Harris's handlers thought it was a really great idea for her not to go to that dinner. That has not happened since 1984. We're talking 40 years ago, and that was Walter Mondale, who won exactly one state out of 50 in that race.
Harris did address the crowd last night in a pre-recorded video message. Many pro-lifers wonder if the VP was a no-show because of the Catholic Church's stance on abortion. What a way to end a baseball game.
Oh my goodness! Big Christmas has tied it! The ultimate present under the tree! Oh my goodness!
Sportscaster Brian Anderson with the call on TNT, and then one inning later, this happened.
Fry, deep drive, left field, Fry's watching, it is a walk-off home run! David Fry lights up the Cleveland night!
We'll talk more about that amazing finish to the Yankees-Guardians playoff game, one of the most exciting postseason baseball games in recent memory, unless you're a Yankees fan. That's coming up later in sports. Also ahead on the Noon Report, Musk making moves in Pennsylvania, retail theft in Rochester, and the downside of sports betting.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. We're looking straight at a near picture-perfect weekend weather-wise. I'll have the forecast specifics coming up in 10.
All right, Kevin, thank you kindly. Let's check the stories making news all across New York and Pennsylvania. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, will be on the stump for Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. In the closing 2.5 weeks of the campaign, the billionaire will be hosting town halls in Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia. Musk is in Philly tonight. Trump campaigns tomorrow in Latrobe, PA, and then Lancaster on Sunday. Pennsylvania's 19 electoral votes make it the biggest of the battlegrounds in the 2024 race for the White House. 6 people are facing federal charges in what federal prosecutors call a widespread retail theft scheme operating throughout the Rochester, New York region.
4 of the suspects are accused of stealing from stores like Home Depot, Target, and Walmart, then selling the stolen goods to a pawn shop in Greece, allegedly operated by the other 2 suspects in this case. That duo is then accused of reselling those stolen goods at much higher prices.
Daniel Finkelstein with Wham News says the scheme generated nearly $2.5 million in illegal profits over a 2.5-year period. The Salt City has a lead problem. There's fresh concern today about the amount of lead in the drinking water in Syracuse. Tests by the Natural Resources Defense Council have found double the amount of lead that raised red flags in Flint, Michigan a few years back.
The city has been saying even recently that the water is safe, but the data say otherwise. We need both immediate and long-term action.
The NRDC's Valerie Barron says it is not clear yet where the lead is coming from in Syracuse, New York. A New York state lawmaker wants a speed warning system mandatory in new cars starting in the year 2029. Democratic Assemblyman Robert Carroll introduced the bill, which calls for an alarm to ding whenever a driver is going faster than the speed limit. The Corning Museum of Glass in New York's Southern Tier has just opened up a new 60,000 square foot glass-making studio. Republican Congressman Nick Langworthy says the $55 million upgrade will help keep CMOG a worldwide tourism destination center.
People across the world know Corning and the Museum of Glass. I find it remarkable. People I've met from across the country in my time in Congress, and some of them have been here. They know the great work here. They know how unique it is to have this landmark. And this studio is going to make sure that we continue to expand this museum.
The congressman says CMOG is not only known for its world-class art, but it's also a connection to everyday life. From the glass in smartphones to glassware in kitchens, Corning's influence, he says, is pretty much everywhere. As sports betting becomes more commonplace, a growing number of student athletes say they're being harassed by angry bettors who've wagered on games. Spectrum News reporter Spencer Conlon.
Earlier this month, the National Collegiate Athletic Association released new data on online harassment in college sports. The artificial intelligence-powered investigation examined more than 1.3 million posts targeted at the social media profiles of student athletes and coaches. More than 5,000 contained abusive, discriminatory, or threatening content.
New York Congressman Paul Tonkos introduced legislation that would limit the way that online sports betting platforms can advertise or interact with gamblers. State law prohibits bettors from placing wagers on any in-state college sports. Well, this weekend is peak leaf peeping season across much of the Family Life listening area. Get out there and enjoy it. Absolutely beautiful. The I Love New York website has an update on where you can catch the most vibrant fall colors. And in Pennsylvania, the Northern Tier is the place you'll want to be to see the fall foliage this weekend. Also, some parts of central Pennsylvania are at their peak colors this weekend. It's the end of the road for a nationwide retailer. The last of its kind is closing up shop on Long Island this weekend.
This is the weekend. The very last Kmart in the mainland U.S. is closing. Locals and weekenders alike say they'll miss the store near the beach in Bridgehampton, New York, where average home prices are around $3 million. It was often frequented by the rich and famous.
All right, that's correspondent Deborah Rodriguez, and you're listening to the Noon Report for Friday on Family Life. Let's check sports next. If you missed the last two innings of last night's Yankees-Guardians playoff game, you missed a lot. After coughing up the lead late with their ace closer on the mound, Cleveland clawed back to tie the game with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth. A 2-run home run by John Kenzie Noel. David Fry won the game in the bottom of the 10th with a 2-run blast of his own. The DH says his faith prepared him for that final at-bat.
All glory to God. I had a really bad first at-bat, and I just told God, I said, take it, man. Just take the at-bat. I still don't know what happened.
What happened was he hit the game-winning home run. That's what happened. Game 4 tonight in Cleveland. The Yankees still lead the ALCS 2-1. The Dodgers are just a win away from advancing to their first World Series in 4 years. They smoked the Mets 10-2 at Citi Field last night. Mookie Betts went 4 for 6 with a 2-run blast. He also batted in 4 runs last night.
You know, it's good. It's good to help the team. And pitching did amazing. Keeping them off the board, really. So, it was fun.
Yeah, it's always fun when you hit like he did. The Mets will try to stave off elimination tonight in Queens. They'll send big lefty David Peterson to the mound. First pitch set for just past 5 o'clock. Sean Payton beat his old team on Thursday Night Football, the Denver Broncos. No problem with the New Orleans Saints in the Big Easy. It was pretty easy. Final score 33-10. Javonte Williams scored 2 touchdowns in that one. The Saints have lost 5 in a row after winning their first 2 games of the season. NHL action last night. The Sabres lose again. What else is new? 6-4 to Columbus. Buffalo in last place right now in the Eastern Conference. The Rangers beat Detroit 5-2. The Blues skate past the Islanders in overtime 1-0. And Philadelphia falls to the Kraken. At the Family Life Sports Desk, I'm Bob Price. And still to come on the Noon Report for a Friday, Christian ambivalence in presidential elections. Will Christians be protected if Prop 1 passes? And what Christians need to know when it comes to so-called gender-affirming care. The numbers are, in a word, frightening. We're talking about it on Capital Connection right after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. With the Colson Center, I'm Shane Morris. Comedian John Mulaney once joked that one of Jesus' greatest miracles was having 12 close friends in his 30s. Sadly, the modern decline of friendship is real and anything but a punchline. The Survey Center on American Life reports that in 1990, almost 70% of men had 5 or more close friends. By 2021, just 40% reported having that many. And the number who said they had no close friends quintupled. Women haven't fared well either, though their friend groups haven't shrunk as rapidly. Part of the challenge is that time together is the oxygen of friendship. Deprive it of that, and friendship tends to die, or at least become more distant. And today, perhaps due to a faster pace of life and more stuff piled into our schedules, spending time with friends requires more effort and intentionality than in decades past. Research shows that Americans now spend half as much time with their friends 3 hours a week as they did just a decade ago. Writing at The Atlantic, Olga Kazan described this as a friendship paradox. Quote, "The typical American, it seems, texts a bunch of people, 'We should get together,' before watching TikTok alone on the couch and then passing out. That is, Americans have friends. We just never really see them. And that's not so different from having no friends. It'd be easy at this point to lecture people to get off their phones and go reconnect with someone over coffee. And to be clear, that's not a bad idea. But Kazan doesn't think our loneliness is entirely the fault of lazy or screen-addicted individuals. Instead, she blamed our rapidly growing isolation on the fact that we have so few regular opportunities to meet or spend time with our friends. Echoing the theme of Robert Putnam's 24-year-old book, Bowling Alone, Kazan pointed to the collapse of unions, civic clubs, and religious congregations as a major reason why people see less of each other. These so-called third spaces, distinct from home and work, tend to regularize contact, as one researcher told her. Showing up at the same time and place weekly or monthly with a lot of like-minded people makes it much more likely that someone will form and maintain friendships. That's why the answer to our friendship famine can't be, there's an app for that. As Kazan pointed out, digital tech aimed at helping people form friendships has been about as successful as dating apps, which is to say, a big disappointment. This is because such technologies, quote, put the onus on each individual to initiate and maintain contact. Each person has to send messages and sync up schedules to find the brunch spot that'll accommodate everybody's food allergies. You can't just show up on a Sunday and find a few hundred of your friends in the same building. So what's the solution? Well, the first step will be to reaffirm that friendship is not just a nice thing worth having, like a luxury vehicle or eating out weekly. It's a critical part of human flourishing. We've suggested before on Breakpoint that providing chances for young people to meet potential spouses is a call the church should take seriously in today's connected but disconnected world. Well, the same goes for friendships. Youth groups, Christian schools, co-ops, Bible studies, and Christian colleges should emphasize making lifelong friends as one of their purposes. The same goes for ordinary Christians who can open their homes to make up for the loss of third spaces. And when you do, invite not just people from your church, but those with no practicing religion who are, statistically speaking, the loneliest members of society. That kind of regular, low-pressure friendship may be just the thing your unbelieving neighbors didn't know they needed. For the Colson Center, I'm Shane Morris.
All right, Shane, thank you very much. Let's take it outside. Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life weather forecast. The call for this afternoon, sunny skies, a little hazy in eastern Pennsylvania, but otherwise it's a beauty. High temps, mostly 60s. Then tonight, clear, chilly again. Low temps, 30s and low 40s, some pockets of frost. Tomorrow and Sunday, beautiful with abundant sunshine. It turns a bit warmer. High temps tomorrow, 60s to near 70, and right around 70 for high temperatures for many of us on Sunday.
All right, short sleeves in order for the weekend. That sounds great. Thank you, Kevin. It is Friday, the 18th of October, and you're listening to the Noon Report right here on Family Life. welcome back to another edition of Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Gear at the Pennsylvania Family Institute. I want to begin this week, guys, with a poll that I could not believe. I see a lot of polls having to do with politics, but this one shocked me, and I'm not easily shocked anymore. This is from the Culture Research Center, Dr. George Barna's group out in Arizona. Anywhere from 32 to 41 million Christians plan not to vote in the upcoming election. Jason, I wonder what the reason is for that. Maybe in New York they say, well, my vote doesn't matter, or I don't like any of the candidates, so I'm just going to sit at home. What's your reaction to that survey?
Yeah, my reaction is very similar to yours. I mean, we kind of live and work in this environment, and so we shouldn't be shocked by these things anymore. And yet you hear that number, and it was stunning. I mean, to think that there are tens of millions of believers who will sit at home or will not vote in this election, I just think there's a moral and a biblical responsibility to stand up and do something. If you had the ability to preserve liberty for future generations, if you had the opportunity to stem the tide of violence towards the unborn child or towards children that are being mutilated or children being sex trafficked across the border, I believe there's a moral obligation to stand up. And so I plead with brothers and sisters in Christ not to sit this one out, but to get up and get involved up and down the ballot.
And we're going to talk about why you need to get involved in a minute. But first, Michael, your reaction, why so many Christians plan to sit out the upcoming election.
Well, I agree with what Jason said and implore people to vote. Here in Pennsylvania, obviously, we're a swing state. The radar screens are all looking at Pennsylvania, what's going to happen in this election. And whether Christians and people of values turn out is going to make the difference here in Pennsylvania for everybody across the nation. It's troubling to see. I know it's been a concerted effort by some to tell Christians they shouldn't be using their influence in society. We even here at Pennsylvania Family get attacked by news media and others saying somehow we're trying to take over. Yeah. The reality is that we all have a voice. We all are part of the government. As citizens, we should be exercising that voice. And if we don't, it leaves a vacuum, and there are plenty of people with a different worldview who are happy to walk in and take over that vacuum and lead society in a place we don't want it to go.
Well said. If you need any reason to vote, Jason, Prop 1 is it, the proposed amendment in New York on the ballot this fall. Does it undermine parental rights? Does it endanger girls' sports? Does it infringe on religious freedoms? Will it allow illegal immigrants to vote? There are a lot of questions about this. I want to ask you this question, though, Jason. Are there protections for religious groups should this proposal be approved?
Well, nothing adequate. The problem with Prop 1 is it's going to elevate the status of women seeking an abortion or those in the LGBTQ community to essentially the same status as religious liberty. And the problem is the way the prop is done and the way the courts function in New York, there will be this desire to lift up abortion and the LGBT agenda over religious liberty. And so, for churches and pregnancy centers and others, we're very concerned about how the courts are going to interpret Prop 1 should it pass.
Yeah, and the danger, on the surface, this looks really appealing. But once you read the fine print, things don't look so rosy. When it comes to biological boys playing girls' sports, there's going to be a walkout next week to protest that. If you would, talk about what's planned next Thursday.
Yeah, there's what's being called a walk-off for fairness day, hashtag girlcott instead of a boycott, right?
Yeah.
Where athletes are being encouraged to walk off the practice fields or their competitions on October 24th as a protest against Proposal 1, but also really to save, girls' sports in this state. We hear oftentimes from the left students protesting so many different things. These are girls that are standing up for their own safety in competition. There are girls that are being brutalized by some of these sporting events against male athletes. So that Walk-Off for Fairness Day is October 24th, and there will be many people across the state of New York participating on that particular day.
All right, thank you, Jason. Hey, Michael, a report out. Your colleague, Dan Barkowiak, did so much great work on raising awareness about this. Young children in Pennsylvania being experimented on with sex reassignment drugs and procedures. I got to ask you, how rampant is this sort of social experimentation, and how damaging are its effects?
It's a pretty widespread, and here in Pennsylvania, there's an organization we've partnered with called Do No Harm that has issued a report. Children's Hospital of Philadelphia is ground zero nationally for promoting puberty blockers and sex hormones and even surgeries on minors. It leaves these children permanently mutilated. More than $20 million of taxpayer dollars is spent on doing surgeries and these hormone blockers, and it's devastating, it's wrong, and this is another reason why people need to get out and vote. These are the kinds of issues that in states where they elect solid legislatures, they ban this kind of stuff. Here in Pennsylvania, we can protect children in the future.
Yeah, and this is becoming something of a cottage industry for Planned Parenthood as well. This is kind of their big moneymaker now. And this is not just one or two kids this is happening on. This is thousands of young children in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Planned Parenthood, not only, they're known for abortion, but they also do school curriculum. They go in and do this kind of transgender ideology, teaching it there. And then you go to a Planned Parenthood clinic and they provide these cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers for kids and adults. It's wrong, and people need to be aware of it and get engaged to try and stop it.
Yeah, we encourage everyone to go and read Dan's article on this on your website. We'll give that at the end. But first, Jason, Governor Hochul signed a series of bills on gun violence last week. I think there were 6 in all. Anything from a Second Amendment perspective that concerns you with those laws?
Well, not from our organization's perspective, but from just a strictly Second Amendment perspective, it will allow the tracking of firearm and ammunition purchases through your credit cards, like a special code for that. And so essentially there's going to be this database out there that will track when people purchase firearms or ammunition. I think that's concerning for a lot of people across, particularly upstate New York.
Yeah, there are a few legislative victories, or judicial victories, I should say, Michael, but there was one, a big one in Pennsylvania recently. You're calling this one a win for parental rights. It has to do with 3 moms and their first grade children and some controversial gender identity curriculum. If you would explain that court case.
Yeah, this involved the first grade students at Mount Lebanon School District, which is south of Pittsburgh, a suburban school district. The first grade teacher there showed a movie to the students called Jacob's New Dress for the 6- and 7-year-old students. She read from books whose subject matter included gender dysphoria and gender transitioning. So when these parents became aware of this and said, why is this being promoted with our first graders, they filed a lawsuit, and thankfully a federal judge offered a summary judgment against the school district and against this teacher. It is a win for parental rights.
Yeah, and Jason, there was a win as well. New York, not every day that pro-family bills get signed by Governor Hochul. Hey, you'll take them when you can get them, right? But there were 3 bills that she signed recently, and they all happened on the same day, correct? October 1st. Explain the good the governor did there.
Yeah, 3 bills signed on October 1st that we're pleased to see. The first would allow pregnant women to enroll in health insurance without a penalty during a special enrollment period. This really helps women that want to carry their babies to term be able to get the health insurance coverage they need. The second thing is it would require health insurance plans to cover prenatal vitamins. And then the final thing deals with mobile sports betting, and this would include warnings about the potential harmful and addictive effects of gambling would have to be applied in various sports betting advertisements. So while it's sad to see so much sports betting growing here, I'm thankful for at least a little protection here in this area.
Oh, you can't watch anything on sports like everywhere. It's all over the place. So we're glad to see that. And then finally, Michael, efforts afoot in the Pennsylvania House to dismantle divorce law. This bill would make it easier to dissolve a marriage by repealing and replacing the Pennsylvania Divorce Code. You argue this is wrong-headed. How come?
There's a variety of reasons. Marriage is the best health, education, and welfare institution ever devised for children with a mom and a dad. The nation has really suffered the side effects of no-fault divorce. But one of the things that is in current Pennsylvania law, it says the family is the basic unit in society, and the protection and preservation of the family is of paramount concern. This new proposal would take that language out of the state law and also just grease the skids to make divorce easier. We understand there are situations of abuse and others that necessitate divorce, sadly, but we shouldn't be making it still easier and more efficient. That's a wrong-headed thing to do.
All right, and with that, we will have to stop this week, but wow, a lot of places we've been the last 10 minutes. If folks want to learn more about Prop 1 in New York and why it's so dangerous, why they need to vote no on that proposal, Jason, you're writing about it online. Where can folks find you?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
And the Do No Harm Report, thousands of Pennsylvania children being experimented on through controversial surgeries. Michael, you have an article on that on your website as well. Where can folks read more?
PAFamily.org.
All right, they get it done every Friday during the Noon Report. Capital Connection. You can catch it online as well anytime. Just go to familylife.org. Look for the news tab on our podcast page.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Sprawling high pressure is poised to produce near picture perfection weather-wise this weekend, and that nice weather will carry us into early next week. There'll still be some nippiness in the late nighttime air, but the days will be golden and mild. The breeze is light, and the chances of rain are virtually nil until the middle of next week. The call for this afternoon, sunny skies, a little hazy in eastern Pennsylvania, but otherwise it's a beauty. High temps, mostly 60s. Then tonight, clear, chilly again. Low temps, 30s and low 40s, some pockets of frost. Tomorrow and Sunday, beautiful with abundant sunshine. It turns a bit warmer. High temps tomorrow, 60s to near 70, and right around 70 for high temperatures for many of us on Sunday.
Okie doke. Thank you, Kevin. And finally, at noon today, a 6-year-old therapy dog is helping kids develop the confidence they need to succeed at life. It's happening at a Binghamton area elementary school.
We all know that he's a good dog. We like to read to him, and that's pretty much it.
The yellow lab named Sander has been on the job for just a month now, but is already making a difference there in Hancock, New York, just outside the Parlor City. Sander is the first therapy dog in the school's history. Kindergarten teacher Marjorie Hull.
We've been thinking about it for quite a while. It was kind of a long process. I talked to a couple other districts that had therapy dogs. We knew that Sander would be perfect for it.
Hull's daughter Ashley is Sander's owner, and she's been training him since her college days.
I raised him for 18 months within that program, where we did lots of just basic obedience and socialization. He would come to my college classes with me, and he would come to the grocery store, and he was around my friends.
Sander started out as a guide dog for the blind before transitioning to therapy work. Experts say dogs help reduce stress by lowering cortisol levels. Marjorie Hull says Sander's helped her students feel more comfortable with reading in public.
I noticed a lot of the kids lacked confidence in their reading. Like, they really could do it, but they were afraid to read in front of an adult or afraid to read in front of their peers. And so they can come in here and they can read to Sander, and he's non-judgmental. He just sits and listens.
All right, let's hear it for Sander, the 6-year-old yellow lab. That dog hangs out with the kindergarten students every Tuesday and Thursday in Hancock, New York. And that's our world, the world we live in, Friday, October 18th. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.